Live from Deathray Studios in the sunny West Valley of Phoenix, it's Late Night with the Davey. On this week's show, Mark of Tales from the Shelf. And now, ladies and gentlemen, your host, Davey Deathray. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Davey Deathray here on this lovely Wednesday night for episode 40 of Late Night with the Davey. How about that? 40 episodes. Gosh, we probably would have been at 50 by now had I not missed a little bit of time there, every so often. But really appreciate you guys for kicking it with us. We've got a fun, kind of like a special, different sort of episode going on tonight of Late Night with the Davey. You know, I love bringing people on and just having like discussions, topical stuff, picking their brains about what they're known for. But also, I thought we can sort of shake it up with these Late Night with the Davies and, do some different stuff from time to time. So I think this might be the second repeat guest, because I think Brett from Good Real Hunting was on by himself, and then he came on with Brad as well. So we've got our guy Mike, Mark, Dan, Steve, Dave, all these names. Mark from Tales from the Shelf. He's there in the waiting room, and he's like, I'm going to bail on Davey right now because he said Mike. What the hell is this? My dad's name is Mike. Maybe that's what got it in there. Anywho, Mark of Tales from the Shelf. Super pumped to have him back on. He's been on for a couple different versus battles so far. We pitted Alien versus Aliens, and then we did the 2 Halloween 2 movies. That was a lot of fun. Got some really great engagement from you guys in the chat as well. So we're going to do that this time around with the Terminator versus Terminator 2 Judgment Day. And I can already tell from looking in the chat that you guys just want to tell me that T2 is the better movie. So that's totally fair. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. However, this time we are going to shake it up a little bit. We're going to, as we go through each category, we are going to do a poll for each category. I think previously I just put out a poll of like, which movie do you think is better? Just kind of a generic poll. But this time, as we go through the categories, we'll drop a new poll in for you guys to, to chime in on, and that way we can get kind of a feel of which way you guys are leaning on each one of these different categories. So hope you guys are having a great week thus far. My Capitals are playing right now. They won the first game against the Canadiens, and the last I saw, they are winning this game. So that's good news for the week for me so far. But I'm going to say what's up to you guys in the chat, and then we'll bring Mark, not Mike, Mark on and get this it's not really a debate because we don't really debate, but get this discussion going. We got Medley Man saying, which one is faster paced and has more plot again? I don't know. I mean, honestly, I think that's kind of I guess T2 has a little more plot, a little bit. I don't think either one is slow paced though, that's for sure. What's happening, Chester? How you doing? So good to see ya. King Matthew III says Terminator 2, in my opinion, is way more better than Terminator 1. I think 2 just had better chases than 1. Yeah, we'll talk about all that kind of fun stuff. I'm looking forward to it. It'll be a good time. Chester likes Terminator 2 more than Terminator 1. The ending is so emotional. When I was a kid, that one did make me want to cry for sure. What's happening, Gene? How are you doing? Hope you're having a great night so far. Chester reminding everybody to hit that like button and show me some love. Thank you so much, Chester. Really appreciate you. Yeah, guys, it helps the stream get seen. So when somebody that maybe has never watched this channel before is looking for something to check out on a Wednesday evening, if you guys are hitting that like button and engaging in the chat, it's more likely to pop up on their feed. So like if you're watching, even if you're watching after the fact. Also, if you're watching after the fact, drop down in the comments. Let me know, let Mark and I know what you think about T2 versus the Terminator. You can break it down with the categories or just the movies themselves. And then, of course, we've got a link pinned in the chat for Mark's channel. So, guys, if you have not yet subscribed to Tales from the Shelf, go check out what Mark does. He's got a really awesome, I mean, to me, it's like a stream of consciousness kind of way of doing his reviews and his video essays, which I think are really intriguing, a bit more like lengthy, but I kind of like those videos where you can just sort of, you know, put the earbuds in, put on a video, sort of like almost like a educated lecture on a film or an adaptation of something. Mark's like perfect at doing that. So, you know, when you're going throughout your day or driving to work, Tales from the Shelf, man, good stuff to put on. Let's see here. We got MAGA Cat in the chat. What's happening, MAGA? Hope you are doing well. We got Prince in the chat as well, doing in Arnold's voice. Davey's back, baby. There we go. Hell yeah. Welcome on in, Prince. We got Antonis Andriotis, one of our great channel members. How you doing, Antonis? So good to see you. Dominic St. Clair. What's happening, Dominic? We got Madison Daniels. Ooh, Madison Daniels with the stranger's mask on there. All right. I like it. I like it. That's the kind of creepy I like. Madison, is this the first time you've jumped in on the chat on a Davey Deathray stream? If so, everybody make Madison feel very welcome. You're kicking it with the Death Squad. We're about to have some fun here. Thank you so much for joining us. We got Big Rod, another one of our great channel members. Hope you're doing well, Big Rod. Always a pleasure to see you. We've got Jason from Backtrack Cinema, says the Terminator all day, Davey. Hell yeah. Guys, just a couple weeks ago, we had Jason on Late Night with the Davey, and in a couple weeks, I'm going to be on Backtrack Cinema doing a watch party of the original Friday the 13th with him. So make sure you tune into that. We got Slasher Fred, says it's hard to tell which one is better because they were both iconic movies. I hard agree with that, Slasher Fred. Blu-ray, what's shaking? Love seeing you jumping on into the chat, as always. Thank you so much. We got one of our great channel members, Dean Renner, in the house. How are you doing, Dean? Hope you had a great weekend at work, and I hope you get to kind of chill out and kick it with us here tonight. It's always a pleasure, you know, getting to see what you've got to say. Dean's got a really great channel called Enter the Cinevault. If you guys have not subbed on over there, Dean's got an awesome voice and a really cool accent. So, yeah, check it out. Let's see. Just want to make sure I'm not missing anyone else. We've got Pat, that Halloween movie collector, in the house. One of our brand new channel members as of just a few days ago. Hope you're doing well, Pat. Guys, I'm just going to keep on shilling for other people's channels, and at some point we'll bring on in Mark. But Pat has a great channel. I mean, talk about like watch parties galore. He also has a very impressive collection of Halloween, you know, merchandise and paraphernalia. He's got some really cool videos about that, and he's one hell of a kick-ass musician. So he does a lot of videos, you know, about music, which I think is really cool. I'm a big music fan myself. I can't shred quite like Pat can, but I can love music just like he can. All right, and it looks like we've said what's up to everybody hanging out in the chat with us. So I'll go ahead and get Mark here. Guys, welcome on in, Mark of Tales from the Shelf. How you doing, Mark? Not Mike. How are you doing, Mark?
What's going on, guys? I hear all kinds. I hear Matt. I hear Mark, Mike. I hear it all. So,
you know what I think it was that tripped me up, honestly, is I don't want to say Mark from Tales from the Shelf. So I try to say Mark of Tales, and for whatever reason, my brain was like, nope, I can't do both, so I'm just going to call him Mike.
Yeah, some things just don't roll off the tongue as much as you might want them to, I guess. But it's okay. Mistakes happen. I'll forgive you this time.
Oh, thank God. Yeah, man, it's been a while since we've done one of these. How you been, and what's been going on over at the channel that you can you know, kind of let people know about as they check out that link that's pinned in the comments?
Yeah, it has been a while, hasn't it? Well, gosh, when did we do was it the Alien one, or that was the last one, right? Because the Halloween one was the first one.
Was it? I thought we did Aliens first, like in the summer, and then we did Halloween in October.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
Yeah, it's been since October. Wow.
Yeah.
I've been doing well. Just trying to juggle life, YouTube. I was in a 9-ball league, like a pool league. that just got done, so like that takes up some of my time as well. So everything's been good. Yeah, I'm trying to stay busy and find time to like even exercise here and there. Like is hard, but it's fun, man. Everything's been good. You seem to do this as well. Just keeping yourself busy, like be it with the channel or whatever it is. Like it's great to just always have something going on. That way, idle hands are like the devil's plaything, right?
It keeps the bad thoughts out, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so yeah, I've just been trying to keep busy and work on the channel, and it's hard to find. Sometimes for me, it can be hard to find the motivation, just because. Whoop, sorry about that.
Are you there? Yep.
Yeah. Sorry.
You're all good.
Yeah, but so as far as my channel, I just had I had my first run-in with like YouTube copyright hell. I had a video that I did. It was like my longest video essay ever about the Silent Hill movie from 2006, and just kind of how, in my opinion, it's the best video game movie ever made. And I finished it, put a lot of work into it, and then it got hit with some copyright issues, and I had never dealt with anything like that before. Since being monetized. So, long story short, I had to figure out, the best way to fight my case and, appeal it and everything, because, there is a worry of getting a copyright strike, which is bad for your channel.
Oh, yeah.
If you get one of those, they do go away after 90 days, but it's possible that your channel can be demonetized in that time and stop you from going live, which I do every week on Sundays. I do this little show called The Dispatch where I just kind of run down news in the movie world and stuff. So narrowly avoided all that, and the video's up, and it underperformed a little bit, but I imagine that has to do with the whole copyright thing. So that kind of derailed my my motivation for a little bit, but we're getting back into it. We're always writing stuff and working on stuff. I'm doing a weekly review series for every episode of The Last of Us that comes out, which has been fun. Cool. I've never done anything like that, so that's been fun. And then yeah, just like you said, it's whatever I'm feeling, inspired by at any given time. Basically, is the way my channel works.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think for me too, it's like getting back into like the pre-recorded stuff. That is the tougher thing to find motivation for, because it takes so much damn time. So that's why I really appreciate what you do over there, because I can tell it's well thought out, and I can tell that you're writing out your thoughts. And yeah, guys, again, link is pinned in the description, or it's in the description. It's also pinned in the chat, so go ahead and check out Tales from the Shelf. I just want to say what's up to a couple other folks that jumped on in here. We got Adrian James, Ryan Olishow, the Oct, reminding us that it's just 191 days until Halloween. Hell yeah. We're going to be celebrating a little halfway to Halloween here at the end of the month, so keep your eyes peeled, guys. We got Nanette's Blood Rose Horror Nightmare, one of our great channel members. Welcome on in. We got Aaron Click jumping in. What's happening, Aaron? I guess that means that maybe Dave McCrae's stream is just now wrapping up, that we got some people jumping on in. Brother Fluff Salisbury saying T2 is better just because the Terminator says chill out, dick. To someone. That's good. That'll be the tiebreaker there. Which movie does the Terminator say chill out, dickwad? We got Jay Beach jumping on in. How are you doing, Jay Beach? Great to see you. And I think we're all caught up. Excellent. All right, Mark, how do we usually start this with like overall thoughts, or do we just jump right into our categories? I can't remember what we did. I guess I probably should have checked out one of the other videos.
I would like to rewatch them just for fun, honestly. Like, I would love to just listen to us talk about these movies, because I enjoy doing them so much. I guess we could do like a little opening statement, right? And I also had an idea. Hear me out. Okay. I don't want to derail this too much. But
go ahead.
But since you said that the audience can weigh in on each category, so the way we've done it in the past is like I'll give a point, you give a point, and then we tally up the points all at the end. What if we gave the audience a point as well? So whichever one they voted for, so they can maybe feel as though they're swaying the vote a little bit. I think that'd be fun.
There we go. Yeah, and then that way it's probably less likely we're gonna get a tie, I would imagine. And then we haven't even dealt with a tie yet, but with this one, I don't know. I have a feeling that this one could be the one.
Yeah. I'm so. I guess we could just cut right to the chase. You know, everyone kind of says T2 is better, but and I don't want this to be like the defending Terminator stream, right? Like, I don't. It's okay if it's a blowout, like it's fine, you know. But
yeah,
we're gonna chop it up, and we're gonna make sure we're doing our due diligence and really making sure we're coming to the definite conclusion. You know, I don't want to just give everything to T2, but
yeah.
You know. Yeah, no,
yeah. Go ahead and give your overall thoughts here. Your general kind of opening statement here.
Sure. Yeah. So T2 I saw first. We watched it as a kid, growing up, which, like many of the films I watched as a kid, questionable title there. It was movies like Highlander, Mortal Kombat, Spawn, Halloween, and like T2 are movies I watched.
Yeah.
So I was first introduced to T2. I don't even think I knew that there was an original, like, because it's T2, like it's not Terminator 2, right? It's just T2 Judgment Day, right? So I never really, I didn't think as a kid I even understood that there was that this was a sequel, but I didn't even care because I just thought the movie was so cool. And then later on in adulthood, I got to see the original, and I was like, oh, okay. And I love both of these films. From here on, the franchise is spotty at best. And maybe that could have to do with the lack of James Cameron's involvement. But I do think it's a ripe, franchise. There's a lot of lore that they managed to pack in, and it's cool because the lore is like the lore. It's not the story, right? The lore is just sort of the setup, of the future, and they do get into that with later films, but yeah, I just love the story. It's so simple. Like, we're going to talk about it later. It's such a simple story, and it's very easy to understand, and the stakes are like readily like anyone can just jump in and be like, okay, I'm on board. Like, there's no onboarding process for a Terminator. Like, this guy's here to kill this person, and nothing will stop them. And it's a lot of fun, and we can talk about like maybe the horror aspects of it, because some people consider the first one a horror film, and we can talk about that a little bit as well. But I'm not gonna say which one I like more, because I think as we talk about it, it's gonna sway me potentially one way or the other. I'm kind of on the fence right now, and I could fall on either side. But I love both films. So yeah, that's kind of where I stand on Terminator. It's a great franchise, even if we're only counting the first two films.
Yeah, it's an amazing first 1-2 punch. And I think my experience is kind of the same as yours. I, went and saw the Judgment Day in the theater with my older brother Matt. And yeah, I don't think I saw the original until maybe like a year or two after that. I mean, they're both so good. I'm so happy both of them are done by Cameron, because I think that makes it a little bit easier or not as personal to have like this kind of discussion of comparing these two. And yeah, I mean, I guess I would say I'm probably a little more biased towards the original, just because I like the grittier tone of it. But then on the other side of the coin, it's like, Terminator 2 is arguably like the greatest action movie of all time. I don't know if I would really consider like the first one action, even though it has action pieces, but it's really cool that they're a little different from one another. And of course, when we get into the story, we'll get into more of the details, but I'm really looking forward to this. I love seeing what everyone is saying in the comments. I love seeing the engagement here. Aaron Click says T2 is probably the better made film, but the better film itself, the original.
I'm glad that it's not just going to be like a T2 fest, like everyone loves both. I think like no one hates one or the other. Like, you love both of them, and it's just a matter of which one edges out the other one, which it feels reminiscent of our Alien show as well, where it was like nobody dislikes either one. It's just a question of your tastes, really.
Your tastes and like what kind of mood you're looking for,
Yeah.
because there's a bit of a different vibe. Yeah, and then even Slasher Fred says Terminator 2 is almost pretty much a retelling of the original movie. So that's an interesting point that I'm sure we'll dive into a little deeper here. Just want to say what's up to our great channel member and Patreon, Denise Wheat. Welcome on in, Denise. Yeah, and so I guess let's go ahead and just get going with the with the setup and story. We'll just jump right into that. Mark, I'm going to let you take the lead on these, and then I'm going to go ahead and drop the poll in the chat. So guys, every time we change topics, there's going to be a brand new poll. So keep your eyes peeled, and you guys will be awarding a point for each category towards one movie or the other. So Mark, go ahead and take it away on the setup and story of these two films, and which one you prefer.
All right, so T1, I mean, they're both very similar setups, right? They're both very similar stories. So, and I think a part of that is the appeal, right? Like when you're sitting down maybe to watch T2 for the first time in 1991, right? Like obviously I wasn't even born yet, but I'm sure a lot of people were like, oh, I know this. I feel like I've seen this before, and not in a bad way. I think people were probably very very jazzed up about it. So obviously you have the story of the Terminator being sent back in time to kill this very important person, who will eventually be a problem for them, right? In the first one, it's Sarah Connor, and in the second one, it's John Connor, her son. We all know the story, right? So as far as the setup is more or less the same for both of these. And then as far as the stories go for these movies, I think I'll just say I think I prefer the story of the first movie just because it's a little more simple. The second movie, it feels like James Cameron, because he tends to do this, right? Like he tends to always try to be one-upping himself, and if you look at Avatar and Avatar 2, there's a long gap in time between those movies and this movie as well. First movie was 84, the second one is 91, so it was a long time, and I think that's because he really likes to take advantage of whatever the technology is at the time. And I feel like he probably felt very hindered by the technology he had available to him in the 80s. And then, he might not have even ever wanted to do a sequel, but then, maybe the 90s roll around, right? We're getting into Jurassic Park, that big advent of like computer-generated CGI, and maybe he was inspired to, I don't know the story. Someone might even know this, but I think that the reason it took so long is because he wanted to be able to make use of the special effects that were available. So the second movie, in terms of story, is like him saying, how can I take all the cool shit about that first movie and just crank it up to 11? And I will say I watched the special edition of T2, which is like 2.5 hours. And it includes some cool scenes, some more like character scenes with Sarah Connor and stuff. I probably wouldn't watch that one again. I think the theatrical is a little more streamlined if we're talking about story. But it also does flesh out Sarah Connor a little bit more and makes her more understandable. And, you really understand where she's been at in the time between the two films, right? So, what do you think? I think I like T1 for the story, just because, first of all, it's the first time you're seeing it. Right, you're not redoing it essentially for T2.
Yeah.
So at that time, it feels pretty novel, and it's just a little bit more simple.
Yeah, I like that simplicity of the original one as well. I think another thing one thing that's really great about T2 is there's more lore, so the story gets like deeper and richer, and that's really awesome. I think even though Edward Furlong didn't really have the greatest career, really have like I don't know what it is. Maybe it's James Cameron, or maybe it's just the fact that it was his first role. I think he's like actually pretty charming in T2, whereas like I watched Brain Scan a few weeks ago and I thought he was terrible in that movie, like as an actor. So, you know, it's one of those things where you get these, you know, these more charming performances. I like Miles Dyson as a character too, so I really like how they dive into that part of the story. But I do think, you know, it's really dependent on the on everything that the first movie set up. It doesn't, you know, it's really leaning on that original film as far as the story goes. It's almost like half kind of, you know, like what Slasher Fred said. I've been thinking this for a while, probably almost the last like 8 or 9 years, because I watched the movies back to back right around then, and I realized like, oh man, like as far as if you put the timelines of when like exposition and action scenes happen and all that kind of stuff, if you match those timelines up for these movies, it would be near identical. So I do think of T2 as kind of like a remake, albeit with a way bigger budget and better, you know, effects. We'll get to all that kind of stuff later on in the discussion. But I do think the original Terminator edges out T2 as far as the story goes. I don't think you need a sequel after the original Terminator, although they did a great job with T2. But I think that the Terminator has like a definitive end, and you know, doesn't need anything after it to. There's nothing really left hanging. So yeah, I'm gonna give my point to the original Terminator.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. It's like, and if the movie wasn't as great as it is, it would be easy to look at T2 and call it an unnecessary sequel. But because it is so great, it's like, all right, we'll give it a pass. Like, the story didn't need to be expanded upon, but like you said, and but it's like, well, all right, well, if you're gonna do this, then yeah, I'm cool with that, because they do change things. They make Arnold the good guy, right? Like, I was thinking, should we talk about that here or in characters / performances? I feel like it could go either way.
We can save that for characters and performances. I think that'll be good. Yeah, I realized as soon as I was talking about performances, I was like, get the hell out of that part of the conversation, Davey.
No, yeah,
yeah. I think you make a really good point there that, you know, this movie, it does the sequel right. You know, it really does. And you know, some sequels are literally a rehashing without furthering the lore, but I think this one does, you know, take things a step further for sure. So I'm going to close out the poll here. We have 15 votes in that poll. Which film has the better setup and story? The Terminator wins with 62%. So that's 3 points for the Terminator right out of the gate. I'm kind of surprised. Not that people would vote that this one has the better story, but especially with the way the chat was going, I figured that maybe it would be mostly a T2 love fest. But all right. Hell yeah. So let's see here. Before we move on to the next category, though, I do want to say what's up to Jamie Hart, our original Death Squad mod and channel member. How you doing, Jamie? Herbert jumped on in. Oh my gosh, Michael Bean's so great. Yes, we will talk about that for sure. Yeah. Billy Judd jumped on in. Dick Miller's cameo in Terminator. Who doesn't love a good Dick Miller cameo, you know?
Dick Miller. Rest in peace.
Oh, man, he's so good. It's so good in everything he's in. Nicholas Priori, how are you doing, Nicholas? And I think that's about everybody that's jumped in. Hopefully I didn't miss anyone, but we got to keep this train a-rolling. Yeah, we're going to jump right on into the characters and performances. So I'll get the poll going, and Mark, go ahead and say your piece on the characters and performances for these flicks.
Yeah, so, you know, this was like, we had to talk about Arnold, right? You know, at the time, this was, you know, I don't know that Arnold had done much. This was like his star-making performance, if I'm not mistaken. You know, I have his IMDb up right here, so I'm gonna look at that. But, you know, he's sort of the you know, he's the face of the movie. He's the face of he's on both posters. He is the Terminator. He's the titular guy, right? So, and you know, Arnold's never going to win an Oscar, right? Let's put it that way. I'm trying to be diplomatic here. Like, he's but he's so great, and I feel like as his career has gone on, he's really got to flex that a little bit, like in his older age, doing a little bit more serious things. But he's always been really underrated, I feel like. And the especially in T2, like we talked about the ending, it's so emotional, and it's so great the way that he's able to capture that emotion where, you know, he's going into the lava in the foundry, and you know, he spent the whole movie hanging out with John and Sarah, and you know, even though he doesn't feel the things they feel, he understands why they feel them, and you know, that he's able to infer things from that, you know, despite being a robot. So, you know, he's like, yeah, what does he say to John? He's like, I know why you cry, but you know, I can't do the same, or something like that. And it's, I don't know. I think his performance is so great in that movie because you get to see the full spectrum of him as just the mindless killer to now he's protecting John. I really love that dynamic. I think it's the coolest thing about T2, where it's like, okay, now he's the protector, and it's like, that's awesome. Like the guy, because if you look at T1, right, like he is so menacing, and it's like, I wouldn't want to, you know, I wouldn't want to be being chased by that guy. But then when you take that guy and now he's on your team, that's a really cool feeling, right? So, but then to juxtapose that, you're like, okay, well, what is that? What's coming after us now, if not him? You know, which is where we get into like Robert Patrick. But you know, so my thoughts are very scattered. By the way, I'm sorry if this is like a word vomit.
No, I mean, the whole point is, kind of stream of consciousness, discussion. So go for it, man.
Yeah,
that's what we're here for.
So, you know, I think Arnold is great in both. He's really great in 2. Linda Hamilton is really great in 2. She's fine in the first movie. She's sort of like a damsel, it starts out as, and then as the film progresses, she begins to lean more into her leadership role. But dude, when you see her in T2 and she like is all muscular and like, you know, she's like really leaned into that like, oh shit, the world's gonna end thing. Yep. I mean, the character is like night and day between the 2 films. So she really leaned into it, and like you can tell she bulked up for the role. Like, and that's the other thing that makes me think like, all right, T2 obviously very worthwhile sequel, and it's because everyone really brought their shit. Like everyone brought their A game. Yeah. You know, it's like mostly everyone came back to like, so you know, she's great. Edward Furlong, this is definitely his best role, I would say. Probably his most, definitely his most iconic role. So if we're just looking at the 3 of them, you know, everyone, not including Edward, is better in the second movie than they are in the first. So as far as the overall performances, like if we're looking at the whole cast, I mean, Robert Patrick, menacing as fuck, really, really great. He scared me a lot when I was a kid. Yeah, man, I think the characters and the performances are all better in T2 because because you have more time with them, and you're getting to see them at later stages in their life, and they're just more evolved, you know. Sorry, that's it for me.
And you want to? Okay, cool. So, yeah, I mean, I think I'm right there with you. I do want to mention though, because we didn't, you know, you hadn't really talked about it. Michael Bihn's performance in the original.
Oh yeah. How can I forget Michael Biehn?
Yeah, I don't know if you want to chime in on that, and then I can kind of say my piece on both, and we can, yeah.
Yeah, just for the sake of brevity, Michael Biehn is great. Longtime collaborator of James Cameron. Loved him. He's so believable. You know, when he's in the police station and he's like explaining to the, you know, everyone like what's happening, and you know, he's really bought in. He's really great, and you know, he's the protector in that movie, right? He's our Arnold, and you know, he's only a man. You know, he's just a guy, and he's able to go tit for tat with Arnold's T100. Is he T100 or
T800? I think
T800, and Robert Patrick's the T1000. Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, you know, just a super badass. Good chemistry with Linda Hamilton. Yeah, and he actually has a brief cameo in T2 as well. I don't know if you know this. In the special edition,
And in those deleted scenes, he has a great
yeah. I wish they hadn't really cut that scene because it's just cool to see him again.
Yeah, I think they're even though the theatrical cut, I agree with you, like does move a little bit smoother. I do think that extended version of T2 is actually really good because it has they reboot Arnold's system so he can it explains like how he actually is able to learn a little bit more about the way humans are, but they have to go in and do like a hard reset on his like microchip or whatever.
Yeah.
And then
that's the scene where they're like little Hamilton wants to like completely shut him down, right?
yeah, so you see part of that scene in the theatrical cut, but they don't dive as much into it. And yeah, like John gets to assert himself and be like, "Hey, aren't I supposed to be the leader? So when are you going to start listening to me? Like,
Yep.
we need to keep this guy going." So, so I like that part. And then of course, yeah, the Michael Biehn like kind of hallucination dream sequence, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Biehn is so good in that original film. To me, I think that's one of the reasons why I am more inclined to prefer the original film as well. There's
Michael
just
Biehn.
yeah, there's just something about his character. I love the Kyle Reese character, the urgency and sincerity that he has when he's, as they're like driving away from the like literally Arnold is like chasing them and they're trying to get away and he's like trying to explain to this woman how he's the good guy and like she's got to shut up and listen. It's the only way they're gonna make it out of this thing. I just love like the conviction in his performance. It's really powerful stuff. I'm surprised that he wasn't in more stuff, more like that he wasn't in bigger roles outside of Cameron's work. I know he did a fine job with his career, but
Yeah.
I think he's like leading man material. But I do think that the performances and characters are more fully realized in the sequel. I think that, yeah, like you said, Edward Furlong, awesome in this movie, never really hit that peak again.
Yeah.
Arnold gets to show way more dynamic range. I love that about the character. I love that about the T-800 in this movie, that he's, kind of picking up on it is almost like he's learning as the movie goes along, which is a really nice touch. Linda Hamilton is like, she's like she's a little bit of that Kyle Reese. Like you can definitely tell how he's affected her.
Yeah.
Because she kind of has like she sort of takes on like the humanity part of his role, whereas Arnold is playing the protector role. So I really love that. Joe Morton is Miles Dyson for the little bit he's in this movie, has a really nice arc for that short amount of time and gets to have a really awesome heroic moment as well. And then Robert Patrick, I think it was, who was it that said somebody set it up in here that it's kind of got that Nick Castle, Michael Myers energy. There is something that's just so like blank about him.
That's well said from Aaron Click there. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was Aaron. Thank you so much, Aaron, for jumping in. Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not big and hulking, and yeah, he looks like a regular person. He's relatively like. He doesn't run up to anyone like screaming and shouting. He's very like calm about everything too. There is just something like really unsettling about the performance, and that run, man, that run that he's got's just freaky deaky.
That shit scared me, man. Like when I was a kid, he scared me. I called him the water cop. I when I was a little kid, I called him water. Yeah, because I would have been like 6 or 7 years old.
And it's like they find another, just to about expanding the lore, they find the perfect way of being able to have a juxtaposition between the really buff guy and the slender, a bit more slight guy in stature, but they find a way to explain why the smaller guy is, actually more advanced and more powerful and a bigger threat. So, I would give the characters and performances to T2 in this one because there's more of them and they're richer than they were in the original.
Yeah, the last thing I'll say is that I really love how Linda Hamilton is initially, understandably, very distrusting of Arnold. But then as the film progresses and she sees him like bonding with John, and then up until that finale where he saves them and he delivers the final blow with the grenade launcher. And then, he's obviously willing to destroy himself because he understands, that he needs to go as well. And just her being able to see all that, her seeing that through her own eyes, to the point where she finally like trusts him and like recognizes him as like an equal. It was really on this most recent rewatch. I really enjoyed that dynamic a lot more than I ever have before.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the T-800 becomes the father figure.
Yeah,
so
and they do that in like Dark Fate again, but like it's kind of wonky.
Dude, Dark Fate.
They literally make him the father, like where in this it's more like metaphorical.
Yeah,
it works a lot better.
Oh my god, Dark Fate. That one was rough. That one makes Genesis look like a masterpiece.
I've seen them all one time. I never felt the need to go back to any of them. I think I own Genesis. Actually, I might have gotten rid of Genesis. I can't remember.
Yeah, those are. We should do a Genesis versus Dark Fate. That would be hilarious.
Just pit all the other ones against each other.
Yeah. Antonis, really quick, I saw your super chat, but we're going to finish up the discussion here and then I'll get to it just because it's not on topic. But I really do appreciate you sending that in. But we'll get to it here in just a little bit. And guys, I'm going to go ahead and close out the poll. This one goes to T2 Judgment Day, 18 votes, and Judgment Day gets 72%. So we got ourselves a tie ball game here at 3 apiece.
I'm kind of liking the inclusion of the audience a little bit.
I dig it too. Yeah,
they get to feel like they're swaying the outcome.
Yeah, I appreciate the idea, man. I think that's a good thought. And
yeah. I don't know why we didn't think to do it before. Makes
what
sense.
The hell, guys?
Yeah.
Especially because when we do these discussions, usually when I go live and it's just me, I'm like hitting up the chat like crazy. And you guys are awesome in the chat, keeping the conversation lively and everything. But yeah, when we do these sorts of discussions, we sort of check in with the audience a little less than I would normally do. So yeah, good way to keep them engaged for sure. All right, so moving on to the mood and atmosphere and the direction, like the look of the film. And I guess in this instance with these films, we would want to talk about, this is where we'd probably talk about our action scenes or our set pieces. And everything like that. I'll go ahead and get the poll going and go ahead and give me your thoughts there, Mark.
We do have the VFX category as well.
That's true. Yeah, we can hit up some of the action stuff there as well. Yeah.
I feel like here is where I should call out. All right, so obviously James Cameron, great director, incredible. I think technically his first movie was like Piranha 2, right? But this would be his second, I think. So technically, this is his first good movie anyway? I don't know, right?
Well, he started Piranha 2, and I think he worked for a couple weeks and then got pushed out by the producer. It was like a tactic that the producer did. He would make these movies. I think it was an Italian producer. He would like have to hire an American because of the money that he would source. To make the film, but then he sort of pushed out Cameron. Cameron like tried to take him to court to get his name off the movie and everything, and wasn't able to do it. So it does say directed by James Cameron. Apparently, it was just like a couple weeks, and then I think at the end of it, he tried to fix the movie in the edit. God bless him.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I mean, this is an incredible debut, right? This is purely his film. No interference or anything. So Cameron killed it in both movies, by the way. But I also want to shout out Brad Feidel's score, that iconic score. Dun 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 is like, it's so memorable, but then also like the more sort of dreamy stuff. Like Brad Fiedel, I know him from Fright Night as well, and I really love his Fright Night score. And it's a little less supernatural here, but he's got that same sort of like almost like this mystical kind of feel to it that I really like. It's like very mysterious, and I love his music, and he did both films. And as far as just the overall mood and atmosphere, I feel like the first Terminator is like mostly at night. It's like a very, very dark film. Lends more to that sort of slasher motif that a lot of people ascribe to it, which I don't denounce that, by the way. I'm not like Terminator's not a horror movie guy. Like, I don't care. Like, I think I think it leans more science fiction with elements of horror.
Mhm.
But that's all semantics. Whereas, and then so Terminator 2 is very much a brightly lit movie. It's like a lot of it's set during the day. The whole intro ending with the truck scene, the truck chase in the canal, all very brightly lit.
Mhm.
It's also got its share of nighttime scenes as well. So it's a little bit more well-rounded, I guess, in that regard. So as far as what I like more, man, it's tough. It's tough. Sheesh. I think I might have to go T1 just because it feels like it has a more assured, more sort of confident sort of feel to it. Not that the T2 isn't but it feels more consistent, whereas T2 is like doing a lot more, I think. Whereas T1 is like very much like, okay, this is what we're doing. The whole thing probably takes place in like 12-hour span. Like it's very concentrated. T2 is same thing kind of, but anyway, I think I would have to go. It's tough, right? Because I think I like the mood and atmosphere more in T1, but as far as direction, I might have to give that to T2. So I'm kind of split here. Where do you stand here?
Yeah, I mean, I think I really dig the gritty look of the original. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a good polished looking film, and I think that that's one of the things about Cameron is he's always like pushing the forefronts of technology, making things look better, and just I think that's even if you hated all of his movies, you gotta say something for how he helps like the medium, keep on moving forward and progressing. But I think and maybe this one would have been better to split up or something for this category or make it two categories. I'm not sure, but I love the gritty feel of that original. I think like really, the only scenes during the day are like when the Terminator's going around house to house, like shooting all the Sarah Connors, and that's pretty much
like
it, right?
The beginning, like it's like front loaded with a couple daytime scenes, and then it's like all night. The rest of the film.
Yeah, and it's got this. What I love about it too is like when they go to when Sarah's at the club, and it's like I think the club is called Tech Noir. I'm like, that's what I call the genre of this film. It's like a Tech Noir, and then it's got those horror elements. And I mean, I much prefer the mood atmosphere, and even the direction, because I think again, like kind of beat for beat, although they had a bigger budget with T2. I don't notice that big of an upgrade as far as like where the camera's placed, how it's used, or anything like that. So I would say, for me, I'm gonna go the Terminator for this one. Let's see.
Yeah, I think I'd be inclined to agree. And then I guess you have to think about like, is it more impressive for a first-time film?
Yeah.
Is his ability to direct it that good for his debut?
And I think it's more ambitious for sure, especially those the scenes, like the future scenes with all the model work and everything like that. Like, I think that stuff's really impressive, and that really shows kind of like, because I think that was more of his background. When he was working on Roger Corman movies, it was like making models and doing set designs and doing like all the kind of ancillary sort of stuff that would maybe get missed by a lot of the viewing audience. And then here he's able to give you all of that and to, helm the entire project. I mean, I totally agree. As a first time film, like this one's pretty damn good for a rookie.
And I don't want to say, now that I'm thinking about it, like T2, I don't want to say it's like bland, but there is something about those daytime scenes that are like, I don't know, they're just kind of lit, kind of, I don't know. They just, there's something about, you get what I'm saying? It's like,
I think the second one is like more kind of like accessible and a little more like poppy as far as like more general audience and not so niche. Like the original film is a bit more of like a niche kind of genre.
I don't know, something about just the way it's shot that is like kind of flat to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a vibe. It's hard to articulate exactly why I feel that way. But then when I juxtapose that to the first movie, it just seems more sure of itself, and it's a little darker, and
Yeah.
it's like, this is what we're doing, and it's not trying to be super wide mass appeal, where I think T2 might have been trying to lean a little bit more into that.
I think that's the thing for me too, especially, it's like coming from like being a big punk rock fan, I kind of like something that has a little more rougher edges, whether it's when it comes to music or even when it comes to film, something that's a little less polished. I don't know what it is. It just kind of fits my fits my taste a little bit better.
Agree, yeah. I like talking out the process and how we are like showing our work, how we arrive.
For sure. Absolutely. Yeah, no, it has to come with some sort. I think that's the most important thing. One thing we talk about a lot here is, to be able to say why you think something instead of just laying out the opinion like, well, here's the opinion and here's why. So no, I totally get you. I like talking through it as well. And looks like the audience is kind of right there with us. We got 16 votes and 62% went to the Terminator.
I'm giving it to Terminator. Yeah.
All right. So we've got 6-3 Terminator versus Terminator 2. And I just want to say what's up to Cody Snyder, Leanna Bevy Rage, two of our great Death Squad mods who jumped on in. And just make sure I didn't miss somebody else. I might have missed somebody else. Wet Paint Pictures, what's happening, Cody? Hope you're doing well. And holy cow, we got Destiny Faulkner in the house. How are you doing, Des?
What's up?
All right, so moving on from mood and atmosphere, you touched on this one a little bit, Mark, but I think we can get into it a little bit more here. The music and the sound design as well. I
totally got ahead of myself.
No, you're all good, man.
I think of mood, and I was thinking about his music. Right?
Sure. No, and I think that's fair for sure. And I mean, there is a little bit of a difference here as far as just like the production on the theme, although I think it's still pretty much the same. It's the same melodies, just different kind of instrumentation. And then I mean, with the bigger budget, the sound design is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to go ahead and drop the poll in the chat here if you want to go ahead and say your piece.
Yeah, I think I have to give the music to T2 here, because I think that if anything, it's mostly just the same music, but more of it and probably better sounding as well. So I'd probably have to go out and just say that T2 probably but then again, so Blu-ray Addict makes a good point here. I got to go with the score in T1. I like the synthwave vibe to it, so. Maybe I'd have to listen to them back to back to kind of really be able to say definitively, right? But it's like, if I'm just kind of making blanket statements, it's probably T2, or maybe T1 has the better music and T2 has the better overall sound design. I don't know. Where are you landing on this?
Yeah, this is a tough one because I mean, sound design is so gosh, that's such a I don't want to say small part of it, but the difference between sound design from the first movie and the second movie, it's not going to be that too crazy different. Although I think it is fun to note that the sound of the T-1000 walking through the prison bars, they took a can of dog food and held it upside down and had the dog food, wet dog food, fall out of the can.
Oh, really?
That's how they. Yeah, I love finding out how they do Foley art sometimes on these movies. It's just really, really funny how they are, that creative with it. I think the sound design on the T-1000 is the one thing that stands out to me with T2.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing, anytime he moves or morphs or whatever, there's sort of that kind of sound going on.
I was just gonna say when they're fighting in the foundry at the end, and I think Arnold stabs him with a pipe or something, and then he kind of just slides it out of him. It makes this Jello kind of sound.
Yeah.
And I think sound design is going to be based on what the movie's doing. So T2 has a lot more action sequences. It's got a lot more guns going off, a lot more explosions. You got the T-1000 sound effects. So I think I would have a hard time not giving T2 sound design just because it's just simply doing more.
Yeah.
Where if I listen to this music, it might be the case that I like the music in T1 better. Yeah, I don't know.
I think as far as the score goes, I like the original Terminator score a lot better. I don't mind, like, it is the same music and everything, but yeah, there's kind of like an orchestra doing it in T2.
Right.
And then
okay.
in T1 it does have like that, it fits the whole vibe of like it's got this mechanical robotic feel. And then like you were saying, there's the really cool, there is almost like machines in a factory doing the dun 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 kind of thing.
Yeah,
but then you get this really somber like melody, like the melody that moves through it, the doo 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 doo, like that whole thing is this very like thoughtful, somber kind of like, you know, it's almost telling the story of like this uncertain future, the whole like no fate but what we make kind of like vibe. And it's all like, dude, to me, that's like it's a beautiful thing when music can, like, when a melody can make you like have an articulated thought or sort of like tell the story. It's a very rare thing, but yeah, I think the sound design is more impressive in T2. I mean, Guns N' Roses has a kick-ass song with "You Could Be Mine."
Yeah.
In the T2 soundtrack, which is a pretty awesome music video, pretty rockin' song. I was a huge Guns N' Roses fan, like right around the time that this movie came out. I fell deeply in love with that band. I'm so torn on this one. This is so far, this has been the toughest one.
Yeah. What's the audience leaning towards? I can't see the poll right now.
The audience is leaning towards T2 Judgment Day, 13 votes with 62% going to Judgment Day. And I think, I mean, Judgment Day is a bit more lofty and a bit more ambitious in the sound. Even though I like the score better in the original, I think there's a lot more going on in T2. So I'm going to lean towards Terminator 2. And Guns N' Roses might be the really tipping the scale here.
I think I got to go T2 as well, man.
Yeah.
I got to go T2 as well.
Jamie says Guns N' Roses rocks, and I love that song, but I think the OG has a great score, memorable. Yeah, I'm stuck right there with you. But I got to pick, so I'm going T2. The audience is going T2 with 14 votes. 64% of the folks voted for T2, so holy cow. We're back to a tie. Oh my goodness. Is this going to come down to a coin flip?
I like this. This isn't like a blowout, you know? This is good.
No.
We've managed to pick really even movies so far, and I was worried that this one would be a total blowout in T2's favor. But I'm glad to see that's not the case.
Well, and I think another cool thing about how we do this is even though we've clearly got a movie that we prefer, we don't just like pick blindly when it comes to each individual topics. I think that we're pretty fair, you know, like, absolutely. I mean, I prefer the original Terminator, but it doesn't mean that I'm just going to be like, no, the Terminator is going to win everything. Fuck it. You know,
I still don't know which one I prefer. I really don't, man. They're so close. It's like, it's so close. Like, it's not as obvious to me, like with Alien and Aliens. Like, do you prefer the horror movie or the action movie? I prefer the horror movie. Like, this is like, this is more or less the same situation, but it might be the case that I like the action more. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I'll give you a conclusive answer by the end. I want to leave you guys hanging here.
Yeah. And thank you guys so much for being awesome in the chat, keeping everything going. I love how lively everything has been. And just a reminder that the link for Tales from the Shelf is pinned in the chat and in the description. So if you haven't subbed over there, go ahead and peep his channel out and give him some love. And we are going to move on over to the visual effects and the kills. Ooh, yeah. And luckily, both these movies do have kills, because usually we've been doing like horror-driven stuff. Of course, the Terminator has that horror thing, but even T2's got a little bit of that vibe. So once again, Mark, I'll let you take the reins on this one, and I'll get that poll going in the chat.
All right, so VFX and kills, right? Let's look at the VFX first. I think it would be easy to just say that T2 has the better effects just by virtue of having come later, right? They had more, available to them. But when you look at, I feel like we have to factor in things like the budget and, when it was made is important because,
Absolutely.
things can be more or less impressive depending on when they come out, right? Yeah, someone's pointing out the stop motion. So yeah, Stan Winston did both of movies, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Pretty sure Stan Winston did both movies.
He would have done practical, and then, basically when James Cameron made The Abyss a couple years earlier, they had essentially created Photoshop to do The Abyss. I don't know if you've seen that movie, but it has the same like liquid. There's like an alien in the ocean or whatever, and so that's when they essentially created Photoshop, and then it was a little more refined when they came on to use it for this. But I would imagine that Winston would have done the practical stuff.
Right. Hold on. Let me look. I have the IMDb up.
I can pull it up if you want to keep on chatting.
I hold on. I have it up. I just have to find it. IMDb is not very easy to navigate. Costume design, makeup. Yeah, special effects with Stan Winston. Okay. Sorry about the debt. I just wanted to make sure it was like like he did both. But yeah, so T1 has way more practical leaning, where I feel like most of the effects in T2 are all computer generated. There's T2 has more of that in the finale where Arnold is becoming more he's more deteriorated, and there's one scene in particular where Robert Patrick is like slamming this girder against his head, and there's a couple shots where you can kind of tell that it was more reminiscent of T2 or T1 where it's like Arnold's head, but it's tell it's a little bit more practical. So yeah, two very different kinds of effects work. I tend to lean more towards the side of the practical stuff is always going to be more impressive, just because there's that tactile nature to it, and like somebody had, I don't know, and it's not, I don't want to devalue computer generated things, but I don't know, the horror fan in me always wants to champion the things that were made by someone's two hands,
Yeah. So
I really like that aspect, but then again, there's some aspects like the whole sequence where Arnold's like fixing his eye in T1. It doesn't look that great to this day. It doesn't look amazing, but I personally am able to remove myself from the time and just think about when it was made, and it doesn't ruin the movie for me or anything. Whereas the one thing I'll say about the effects in T2 is they still look pretty good for having come out in '91. They still look pretty good. All the stuff with the liquid metal, it's aged pretty well. So what do you think about the VFX, and then we can talk about the kills?
Yeah, this one is really tough. I mean, you laid it out really well. The chat's laying it out really well. Leanna says liquid metal is hard to beat.
That's what I'm saying, man. It's
aged
well.
It is. And I think so, even though Blu-ray says it has its charm, but it's dated, I totally agree. But there is that really, I love the stop motion at the end, because I think it truly is like some chilling, creepy shit. That that's when you see, that's when you see like the Terminator, the T-800 only looks like it moves smoothly because it has this like living flesh all over it. But once you strip that out, it's like this janky, kind of robot that just seems a lot more sinister, even though he's been killing people the whole entire movie. There's just something creepier about it. And I mean, I think even so, when it comes to effects like, squibs and stuff like that, like the blood splatter and all that, I think like T2 handles that part of the practical effects really well, because Miles gets shot when they break into his house. And they do a little bit of kind of operating work on Arnie in that second movie as well. It looks better than
when he's like cutting his arm open to show Miles. Like,
yeah, all that stuff is really, really cool. That's all practical.
yeah.
And then yeah, the climax scene, like the end scene, is all a lot of that's practical as well, other than of course like Robert Patrick. That kind of, but all the stuff they did with Arnie's, at one point he's got like, I think his left arm or something is like ripped off, or one of his arms has been ripped off, and so it's like, the dangling wires and everything. So they went practical as much as they could there. And then yeah, I mean, even the friggin' liquid nitrogen kill, or the moment where that, I guess not the kill, but just the liquid nitrogen getting like blown up and him tearing off.
Yeah,
I don't even know, like
his arms are like breaking as he's going. Yeah,
and that stuff like looks like it could be practical. At least some of those bits where the legs are being broken off. Like they were using some sort of model work or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was probably augmented by CGI in spots, but yeah, for the most part, I think all that stuff looked really practical. That was some of the best effects in the movie, honestly. All the ice, like when he's iced up like that, that was really great. I'm glad you pointed that out. I forgot about that.
And like the action scenes are, I think they're really impressive in both, but man, we've got some like epic action scenes in T2. I mean, especially like heading to the foundry is just it's this whole friggin', you're like, is this scene ever going to end? But you don't really want it to, because it's so exciting, and kind of like set the standard for like what you could expect from like, those kinds of movies moving forward, which again is another James Cameron thing, just like, resetting the goalpost pretty much. And now, I mean, one last thing that I'll say about the effects is that the shot of Robert Patrick walking out of the fire in the LA canal or whatever, I mean, that's one of the most like iconic shots from, action movies, sci-fi movies, whatever. And to echo what you said, at, almost 35 years old, those effects in Terminator 2 have aged fantastically well. Like there are movies that are coming out. The Silver Surfer from the new Fantastic Four trailer doesn't look as good as the T-1000. So there you go.
Yeah, no, it's tough, man. It's comparing effects from two different eras.
Yeah.
And this is going to be, I think this is like one where it's like you have to factor in your tastes, right? Like,
yeah, and what about the kills? We didn't even.
Yeah, so yeah, we do need to talk about that. I think the kills in T2 are way better just because of the T-1000 and all the cool things that he does with his arms. Like, they really, this is VFX leaning as well, but all the things that they do with him as far as the utility of what that kind of robot would have is really cool. Like when he's trying to pry open the elevator and he like seamlessly turns his hands into like a prying mechanism, like, and he can seamlessly do this, and they do it in as many situations throughout the runtime as you would want them to do. Like it's all stuff and it all makes sense in the context. And I really liked all that. And like just the way that he's able to just kind of make a little spike out of his finger and like, and that's all he needs to kill you is really cool. And it was scary. Yeah. Billy Judd says the finger to the eye kill. Really cool.
And even though it doesn't make sense that he was like the floor, because he's supposed to only be able to turn into like, is it mechanical stuff, right? I mean, isn't that it doesn't make sense that he can just turn into the floor?
He never really does it again.
I guess he would just be a sheet of metal on the floor, right? Like I guess you wouldn't really notice it, but that effect is great.
I guess
like the checkered floor coming up, and then the use of they have two uses of twins in the film with those actors playing the guard, and then of course Linda Hamilton has a twin sister that they utilize in the film as well.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so when there's the two Sarahs, it really is just her and her sister. So they didn't have to use any effects for that one. And of course, all the stuff in the Foundry, I mean, we're sort of skating past like a lot of the Foundry stuff because I think everyone sort of knows what's up, but like when the T-1000 looks like this like just crazy, almost Lovecraftian monster after
Dude.
he gets shot a couple times with the grenade.
Yeah,
you know?
he's like making like he's like screeching like the Thing.
Yes, there it is. That's what it is. It's like the Thing.
And then when he's morphing in the lava, it was also very reminiscent of the Thing. He's just this constant shifting sort of mass. It was awesome. Yeah, dude, that shit was all awesome. That whole Foundry finale is so badass, dude. We're gonna talk. That's the last topic here.
And then even like I'll say one last thing about the effects. I love that it's like in that hallway scene when the T-1000 and T-800 meet for the first time, and the T-1000 gets shot a whole bunch of times in the chest. They are literally using like it looks like aluminum foil kind of things, like almost like pop can kind of things.
Those like
and then they
divots kind of
and then they just turn them, so they use practical and then switch to the digital for the healing part. So a really innovative kind of use of blending the two there.
Yeah, this was the best era for that because they really were doing both as much as they could. Like they weren't leaning one way or the other. Now it's all CGI hardly, like very, very little practical, I feel like. Whereas this time they were like, oh, what if we did this with practical? And then they were working harmoniously more than they ever were. Jurassic Park's a great example of that.
Absolutely.
This is a great example of that. So that's a little unrelated, but
speaks to
it is the overall quality of the VFX.
Yeah, and then also like some of these guys' backgrounds, like Cameron came from that background of actually building things with your hands, but then at the same time he wants to be like on the frontier of visual effects. So and a lot of times I think it comes down to money, and that's why we see more CG than practical nowadays in general. But yeah, this one for me, I mean, even though T1's got some really awesome kills and all that, and I do love the stop motion animation, I think I've got to give this one to Terminator 2 because it's just so rich with the visual effects.
Yeah, good VFX, and then the byproduct of those VFX are those cool. I think specifically all the liquid metal kills are the standouts for me. So yeah, I have to give this one to T2 as well.
And the audience does also. 14 votes, 86% give it to Terminator 2 Judgment Day. So T2 is ahead 9-6, guys. 9-6. Each category has been a total sweep.
Yeah, it's interesting. But it's cool because it means that each movie has certain things that it just does better, which is cool.
Yeah. All right, now, guys, we're moving on to the final category. We've got the climax, which we have touched on a little bit here. But once again, Mark, I'll let you take the lead and get that poll going here in the chat.
Yeah, so what kind of factory, refresh my memory, because the T2 is very fresh for me. I watched T1 maybe 3 weeks ago at this point. Probably less than that. But what kind of factory is that first movie set in? Is it just like a generic sort of factory? It's like not really anything in particular, right?
I don't think we see anything in particular being made there.
Just making sure I'm not forgetting something obvious that everyone else is like, no, it's this. Yeah, so these finales are very reminiscent of each other. I think you mentioned this earlier in that T2 is almost just a remake in some ways. And this is probably the biggest example of that because when they're headed to, they spend so much time getting to this foundry. And then when you arrive there, you're like, oh, we're doing this again. But they up it. Everything's upped. That's the thing I'll say about T2 is everything is elevated. So this one is this one's more, there's actually some lava, which is very cool. Lava looks great on screen. Like lava is very cinematic. Anytime you have that, it's very distinct.
Molten magma.
Yeah, dude. There's something about lava on screen that's just cool. It's like it kind of ups the stakes a little bit, and just the fact that it's around is like you don't want to fall in that, but something, obviously something is going to. And then you're like, oh, like this is how you're going to be able to kill the T-1000. Like, just dump them in there. There's no way he can survive that because he's survived literally everything else up until this point. So you're like, oh, okay, this is where it's going, and it's cool, and it's like it's very cinematic. I love that. So I want to say I like the finale of T2 better because it's more epic. You've got John, you've got Sarah, you've got Arnold all facing off against this T-1000. Yeah, Nanette's right here saying Schwarzenegger talks to John about now I understand why you cry, but I could never do it. I have to. Yeah, I agree with her as well. And then what is she saying here? Chasing the scare factor. You don't know if Sarah's going to make it or not. Kyle. Yeah. So she makes a good case for both of these.
I mean, even Dean is saying it's really tough to pick. I saw the Oct is saying, "Man, this is the toughest one for me to pick so far." Yeah. It is. It's really tough. It is. It's like, do you want what resonates with you more, like the emotional ending, like the tearjerker kind of ending, because they both have the action, and then I would say there's like I do think that one thing that gets forgotten about the original Terminator here is the relentlessness of the T-800, and there's like multiple times where they think they're out of the woods, and just like the littlest bit of him can keep on fighting. And then it's so tough to pick because when I saw T2 in the theater as a kid, I totally wanted to cry when Arnie took the chain ride down to the molten magma.
It's so emotional, man, because it's
the thumbs up, everything.
It's so effective because you spend all this time bonding him with John, and then he's got to go, he can't stay, and they're able to make this robot feel as human as it possibly can. And there's something really special about that, and I think that's something that gets overlooked in all the action of this movie is how powerful that moment was. But then you also have to consider that Sarah knew Kyle for like a day. But he made this huge impact on her life, and he didn't make it out of there, but she did. And then the real climax of, not the climax, I guess the epilogue of Terminator is her out in Mexico with the storm brewing, and she's got that picture taken, and it's the picture from earlier, right? Or yeah. So that's a really cool finale because it kind of ties everything nicely, and you can it sets Sarah on that path. And you're like, okay, that's how she that's how she eventually has John, and he goes on to become, who he becomes. So, yeah, this is really tough, dude. This is tough. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know about this one.
Let's see what the chat is saying so far. This is the tightest poll we've gotten so far. 14 votes. 57% say T2. 43% are saying the Terminator. Guys, if you're hanging out and you haven't voted yet, this is the time to get it in. And Cody's saying, I love that Arnold moment in T2, but Terminator takes this. Yeah, this is really tough. Let's just sit with 5 minutes of radio silence as we think it over.
Well, we could definitely wait a little bit and let more votes roll in and stuff, and maybe just hash out anything else that we might be forgetting,
Yeah, I mean, I think on the one hand, the T2, the climax is more epic. However, kind of going back to what I touched on when we were talking about the setup and the story, it is just, and you had mentioned it too, it is just kind of like a more emotional rehash than what they already did in the first movie. So in a way, the finale for Terminator 2 leans on the Terminator. Now it does add in the emotional aspect for sure, which is like the icing on the cake here that really separates it.
Yeah.
But I do think there is something really sweet about her getting that picture taken, you realizing that this is how the loop is all completely connected, and yeah, that matte painting in the distance of the storm as she's driving down the road,
I
like,
love a good matte painting, dude.
oh, so good. Yeah, this one's really tough. We do have some new people that jumped on in. Dell on movies. What's happening, Dell? Great to see you. If you guys are new to the chat and you have not voted, this is going to be the decider. I mean, this is essentially going to be like, does T2 just end up crushing the Terminator, or is it going to be a tie or damn near close?
Yeah,
so get in your vote.
You and I could pick something different, and then the audience would be the tiebreaker in this instance. So
yeah,
this is gonna be tough, dude.
Yeah,
dude. Cody makes a
know.
good point. The machine can always come back. Reese is gone, and just the fact that she's still having dreams about him all these years later. He's the father of her child that he'll never get to know. Right, because
and again, the end of the original Terminator, it could be the movie did not need a sequel. It did have a definitive end. There's not like a cliffhanger or anything that makes you feel like something could still come about. But the fact that they even made T2 sort of opens up this endless time loop of like, well, it's just gonna be a better Terminator next time, like
but they do it so like everything feels so justified in T2. Now
it does.
Into T3, that's when I'm like, okay, you could have stopped after T2. Everything else is now, it starts with T1, T2, and then everything else is sort of, they never reach those. They never reach those.
It's just there. Yeah, T3 has some fun action, and that's about it. I don't know. This one is really tough. Let's see if we have any more votes. So the chasm has grown bigger. 17 votes, and Judgment Day is at 59%. So I'm going to call it for the audience at that point. So the audience is going T2, which unfortunately, no matter how we vote, puts the Terminator out of reach.
Dang.
That's okay.
I mean, I can't say I'm that surprised. I'm actually glad that it's been as close as it has been.
It's so difficult. I still want to give an answer. This one is really difficult to pick. I think, I'm perfectly happy with the ending of the Terminator. I think it's a perfect ending. Again, you don't need a sequel. But I'm not gonna lie, like I get goosebumps like just thinking about the ending of Terminator 2. So I would probably give T2 the edge on the climax, even though like my brain is like, don't do it. You like the Terminator more. But I mean, when we're talking, that's why we break it down into categories, everyone, because it makes it like you really have to. It just kind of defines your opinion a little bit more, just not just based on like a feeling, or a feeling of the piece as a whole. So, again, I think the Terminator is the better movie, but I've picked T2 for plenty of these categories, and I'm going to pick T2 for the climax as well.
I will as well, because you have that impactful moment with Arnold, and as I mentioned earlier, you also get the closing of Sarah's arc, where she's very naturally distrustful of the T-800, but then she spends the whole runtime seeing him bond with John and saving their lives more than once, and then finally, like she's broken up about it too. Like obviously John is sad that he's gonna lower himself. She's not jazzed about it either, and you can tell. And just for her to come so far and have that, she doesn't say anything. She's very stoic in that finale, but you can read it all on her face, and it's a testament to how great she is in that movie. And just for all those reasons, I have to give it to T2 as well. I think I'd be lying to myself if I said I didn't like this ending better.
Yeah,
T1, it's a finale. It's a fantastic finale, but there's just more going, and I think that's the sentiment here, is that T2 just has more going on, and more is not always better. But I think in this instance it might be.
Yeah, and I think kind of going back to what you're saying about Sarah's arc there, it's like she knows that John's already lost his father. Like he doesn't have that experience because he never knew his father, and then so she had to go through the experience of losing Kyle, and then they both have to go through the experience of losing the T-800 that they've both gotten close to, and like even more so John's gotten close to. And I think in a way that they never really like resolved or made, they never really did anything with this like in any of the later movies. I don't even think they did, maybe in Salvation, but I don't think so, where this is like really the experience that's going to make John like the well-rounded leader he is, that he knows that he's got, his human father basically like saved his mom's life, but then he has this experience as a young boy getting close to one of these machines,
which
so it makes him like
to be his enemy,
his enemy, but also seemingly he must have been the one that sent the T-800 back for Terminator 2. You know what I mean? So it's like, so not only like they knew them as an enemy, but also that like while the first movie is happening, future John and his cohorts are figuring out how to program their own T-800, because the T-800s would infiltrate and the dogs would like find out that they were coming after him. So at some point the Resistance figures out how to reprogram these guys. So it's this really interesting kind of like, like a coming of age moment for John as far as like losing this father figure, but also like it's what is ultimately going to turn him into this amazing leader down the road. So yeah, T2. I mean, what can you say? It's got everything at the end there. And they really didn't need another one after that.
This was the cutoff. And they complement each other so well. T2 complements everything that T1 does. Like, as people are saying, like Cody Snyder is saying, there's no moment with John and the Terminator in T2 if the stuff with Kyle in T1 doesn't go down. So in a lot of ways, I mean, obviously, just by the nature of a sequel, right? You can't have T2 without T1, And like they're both just doing so much. They both feel different, that T1 is a little more smaller scale, a little bit more slasher vibes. And T2 is able to expand it and make it this big action movie without sort of really sacrificing any of that stuff. All that stuff's still there, but it's just doing more. And it's the other thing we didn't really talk about is the runtime. I prefer, it's not a category or anything, and it's all made up at this point. But the runtime of T1 is a little bit more palatable. It's paced better, I think. T2, even with the theatrical, I think once you hit Mexico, it slows down just for a little bit there. It slows down a little bit, and I wouldn't say it's paced poorly or anything because I just don't think it is, but it's a little longer, and you can kind of feel the length, but it's filled with cool shit, so it's not like you're complaining about it, but it's just a little longer.
Yeah, and it's good. They're taking a moment to give you some of that character development,
exactly, which you don't necessarily get as much of in the first one.
Yeah, and it definitely, if you don't have those moments in Mexico, then the emotional ending is probably not going to resonate, as well as it could. So
very true.
I think that's probably why they put that in there, because that's sort of like the closure of all that being built up at that moment. So I mean, I think that T2, it's a longer film. It's more epic in just about every single way. Again, I prefer the Terminator. If I had to pick like one to watch, that's the one that I like more. But I mean, I can't just sit here and stick my head in the sand and act like T2 doesn't do some stuff better. So the winner, again, guys, was Terminator 2 Judgment Day. For halfway through, it was tied at 6-6, and then Terminator 2 ran away with the last couple categories. So the final score is 12-6 on this one. It turned into an absolute drubbing. Let's see here. I want to say a quick what's up to our guy Happy Sanjo. What's happening, Koi? Hope you are doing well. And Koi had gifted a channel membership, so let me see who got that membership there. Blake from All the Good Names Are Taken podcast ended up getting that channel membership. Thank you so much, Koi. Really appreciate you. And real quick before we move on, Antonis, I'm not sure if you're still in here. but I told you we'd get to your super chat. Antonis sent in a $5 super chat, said I watched a first time watch family movie last night called Harry and the Hendersons from 1987. Have you seen it before? Holy cow, when I was a little kid, when it came out on VHS. But I've not seen it since then. Have you ever seen Harry and the Hendersons, Mark?
I have not. This was before my time, and I never got around to watching it.
I remember thinking it was pretty fun for what it was, but I can't really remember. You know, I was like 5 when it came out, so I was probably 6 when we saw it on VHS. Hope you enjoyed it, Antonis. Thank you again so much for the super chat, and of course for being a channel member as well. Let's see here. Koi's channel. He's been going live playing The Last of Us 2. Leanna's dropping in that
Nice.
That link there, so you guys can go ahead and check out Happy Sanjo's channel. Give him some sub love.
I just beat that game not long ago. Really great game.
You know, so I've never played either one of those, but I'm a huge fan of like Resident Evil 4. If I'm a fan of Resident Evil 4, would I dig something like The Last of Us?
Perhaps. Last of Us is more, a lot of the gameplay is like more stealth. There are guns, but ammo is so finite that, you know, you really don't use it often. So it's a lot of
sneaking up.
A lot of stealth, and then there's a lot of story involved as well. Resident Evil 4 is more like a B action movie. It's kind of light on, real character stuff. But Last of Us is a really like strong character piece, you know, at the end of the day. So,
for sure. Yeah, and Resident Evil 4, there's ammo all over the damn place.
Yeah, you got all kinds of guns, and you're friggin' blowing shit up and making one-liners. Like, it's just kind of cheesy, but in the best way. Last of Us is a little more grounded. You'd probably enjoy it, though. Yeah,
I need to get into some more modern gaming. I'm so bad at it.
It's hard. It's hard to keep up. There's shit coming out all the time, and not enough time in the day to do it.
Exactly.
Like, how am I supposed to balance... You know, when I have free time, I'm either working on YouTube, I'm watching movies for YouTube or recreationally, or trying to read books or watch it or play a game. Like, there's just not enough time.
Yeah, or God forbid, have a personal relationship.
Yeah. There's simply not enough time to do it all, man. You know, and then you have work and friends and family obligations. It's you know, I often say if I could just not have this job, I'd be great. I'd have all the time to do everything, but no means to fund any of the things I like to do. So it's
exactly
give and take.
What about that the Terminator 2 game here that Slasher Fred brings up? Have you ever played that one, like the rail shooter, the arcade game?
I probably have. Yeah, I probably have. And then there was this cool Terminator PS2 game, I think, that I had. And I might have rented it from Blockbuster, and it was cool because it was like set in the future where all the war is actually taking place. It wasn't set in.
Cool.
And I think they've made a couple games like that with that same sort of premise. And that was cool. The game starts out, and you're like on the back of this like, you know, 4-wheeler or something, and you're like on a mounted turret, and you're just blasting. It's like an on rails kind of thing as well, but. You're like going through all the future war zones, like the way that these two movies begin, where it's like those, you know, bone crunching and T-800s everywhere. Yeah, you're in that, which is actually a lot of fun.
Cool. Hell yeah. Nanette says, while I like both of these movies, I like Terminator more than T2. I'm right there with you, Nanette. Blake is telling me to stay away from modern games, stick to the old shit. In general, I still play like Castlevania and Contra probably more than like any other video game right now.
I'd say a healthy mix is good. There's a lot of good games coming out these days.
Yeah,
man. There really is.
I think for me, it's like usually I like to wait and just see what people are saying about games before I play them. But like the horror games, like everyone, you know, in the chat here, I think Leanna and Jamie have talked about The Quarry and of course Until Dawn. And I'm like, man, maybe I need to play some of these new horror games. Although maybe I'm too much of a fraidy pants. I don't know.
I love survival horror games. I think they are so fun. I'm a big Resident Evil guy. I've played almost all of them. I didn't beat 6 because 6 was really bad. I'm in the I'm in the middle of a Code Veronica playthrough, which is like that's your classic like fixed camera angles, limited inventory space, a lot of puzzle solving, really classic shit like that. And it's hard when you go back and forth from playing like a modern game to something like that. Like you really need to be in that frame of mind for those old games, and then it's not as much of a focus, I think, in more modern games.
For sure, yeah, tank controls and fixed cameras.
Yeah, man, it's hard to just get into. Like, you really need to be like, all right, I'm gonna do this, and
I'm gonna take a step back in the past.
Yeah, like, I liken it to watching an older movie as well.
Yeah, for sure. J Beach, there was a T2 pinball. That's a classic one. Big Rod brings up the Total Recall NES game. Oh my god, that game's like so bad, but so fun for how bad it is. The Evil Within. That's the one.
That was a cool game. I never beat that one. I got stuck on that one. I was like, Jamie, you might remember. I was like running through this hallway, and there's this dude, and he has like a safe for a head, and it's like one of those like Stalker, like Mr. X, or all those survival horror games have this one enemy that just won't die. It just chases you, so you have nothing to do but just run. It was a situation like that where I was just running from him in like a hallway, and he just kept popping up, and I got discouraged, and I just stopped playing it. And that was like probably 10 years ago. I haven't played it since.
Yeah, I got discouraged with you were mentioning Resident Evil 6. There was a scene where I was just like, I'm getting so pissed off at how it just doesn't seem like they're giving me a fair shot here, so I just bailed. I was straight up bailed.
Dude, yeah, so there's sometimes where you can be like soft locked, where like you don't have the right amount of ammo to get through the situation that you're in, and you can't backtrack and get more, and like you're just fucked. Like, I've had a few times like that where I was playing on a harder difficulty on like the Resident Evil 2 remakes, or like 2 and 3 remake that they did back in like 2019 and 2020. Yeah, there's like on the harder difficulties, there's moments where you're just fucked. Like you simply do not have enough ammo to get through the situation you're in, and you have to like reset. Like, it's not uncommon.
Did you ever have a Wii U? No,
I had a Wii. Never had a Wii U. I think I was on Xbox 360 during that era. So that's what.
So they had this game called Zombie U. That's kind of like
I've heard of that.
Yeah, super fun, but it's like as realistic as it can get. Like, kind of like in Dead Space, like when you pause, like, or when you go to your inventory, it doesn't pause the game. So in Zombie U, when you're looking through your backpack or whatever to like find something, like the zombies are still coming. And then if you die, kind of like Dark Souls and all that, like if you die, you get respawned as a different person, and you have to go find your dead body and take the backpack. Like, you have to like kill the zombie version of yourself and get the backpack back.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. It was probably one of the, easily one of the better games that wasn't like Mario Kart or whatever on the Wii U.
Man, you mentioned Dead Space. Dead Space was the shit, dude. I loved Dead Space.
Yeah, that's a pretty fun one. I know John Carpenter is like talked about, like, that's like the one movie he'd come back to the director's chair to make, a Dead Space movie.
Yeah, I'm actually meeting him next month at a Philly Fan Expo. I'm gonna get to meet John Carpenter.
Wow.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. It's gonna be expensive as fuck. It's like $58 just to get into the convention, and then I think his autograph is like $130. And the photo, and if I decide to do a photo op, which I'm gonna regret it if I don't, because that's separate. You can't take a picture at his booth, only autograph. If a photo op's like another $130, like, it's ridiculous.
Jeez.
And that's just for him. Like, that's assuming that I'm not gonna do anything else while I'm there, because they have vendors and all kind of stuff.
And then you're like, God, no matter what I say to him, he's probably gonna like scoff at me or say something
he's
snarky.
Not gonna give a shit about anything I have to say. I was actually that's why I brought up. I'm like, because I usually like to like ask a question, like one quick thing, a really quick question that I can whenever I go to these conventions. And I feel like I'd want to try to ask him about a video game because I feel like that might be a little less. Like he definitely still gets those kinds of questions, but it might be a little bit more. But yeah, if I could appeal to John Carpenter's like video game sensibilities and like get him to engage with me, like because he's such a curmudgeon. I feel like you hear about how he just is so gruff.
Yeah.
So if I could like get him to like, agree with me about something or anything, like some kind of positive sentiment, I could probably die happy.
Yeah.
So
I'll like, how you doing, you mean old bastard?
Yeah. If I said that to John, he'd probably respect that, honestly.
Yeah, he'd probably be like, all right, I am a mean old bastard. Blake wants to know if you ever played Zombies Ate My Neighbors on Super Nintendo. That's kind of before your time, huh? Or right around the time you were born. What year were you born?
94.
90. Okay, so you were a few years old. Or
yeah,
no,
I'm 31.
The Super Nintendo was a few, because I think the Super Nintendo came out in like 91.
Yeah, so I was N64. I didn't have an NES or a Super NES. I didn't have that. I was in
Zombies Ate My Neighbors is really fun if you ever get the chance to purchase it on a modern console. Super fun.
Yeah, I
hey Mark, if you
ports for it, like remastered ports.
Yeah. Hey Mark, if you could have the greatest video game collection in the world, but the catch is you'd have to sleep with Peter North for a month, would you do it?
I'm gonna probably say no there.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen in the chat, in case you don't know, you can do a Google search on Peter North.
Yeah, don't click any links though, unless you want to.
No, don't. Yeah, Ronnie, keep it clean in the chat. All right, well, let's see here. We're coming up on about an hour and 45. I guess this is a good time to sort of wrap things up. Other than the awesome convention that you've got coming up, what have you got popping up here on the channel that people can look forward to in the coming weeks or days here, Mark?
So tomorrow night, I do a monthly podcast, I guess you'd call it, with my best friend Tyler. It's called Talks from the Shelf, and we pick a different topic every month, and we just have a nice live show similar to this where we just kind of talk about whatever the topic is. And tomorrow night we are doing that on my channel. The topic is our top 5 A24 movies. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I feel like a lot of people have opinions on that, so should be cool. So yeah, if you're into that sort of thing, you can join us 9 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow as well over on my channel. It'll be my friend Tyler and I talking about our top 5 A24 movies. And then every Sunday, like I said, I do a live show that ranges usually from a half an hour to an hour, where I just talk about news, headlines in the world of movies. I try to pick the ones that are most interesting to me and get some audience engagement as well. As far as pre-recorded stuff, I'm writing a script for, coincidentally, a Halloween 2 video. And the whole thesis of that is, why is it the best, worst sequel in the Halloween franchise? So it does a lot of great things, but it does some things that I don't like as well. So I'm going to just kind of do a little bit of a deep dive on that movie as well. So I'm in the script writing process of that. And then lastly, I'm reviewing every episode of The Last of Us every Monday. So the day after they air, I have videos of that coming out. So that's about it.
Awesome. Tons of content over there. And Halloween 2, you're talking about the Rosenthal, the 1981?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, the 1981 Halloween 2, yeah.
Hell yeah, man. Awesome. Well, yeah, you guys can look forward to that. The link is in the description for Tales from the Shelf. It's also pinned in the chat as well. And then, I mean, Mark and I are cooking up another versus battle for, early to mid-June, because we've got a very special boy's birthday coming up on Friday the 13th in June. And we're going to be taking a look at 2 of the favorites in the franchise and doing a versus battle on those. And I'm really looking forward to that. So that's a ways down the road, but I figured we'd let you guys know that we've got that in the works. So really looking forward to that. Chester Franklin's giving you some love for 81 H2. Hell yeah, Chester. Yeah, guys, I guess that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Late Night with the Davey. Thank you so much again to our awesome guest, Mark of Tales from the Shelf. Guys, even though I love the Terminator so damn much, it turns out that T2 truly reigns supreme on this one. So we just want to give a shout out to the Patreon members, the channel members. You guys are awesome. You guys keep the lights on over here. Of course, all of our amazing subscribers and the incredible group of Death Squad mods keeping everything clean in here and sharing everyone's links and all that awesome stuff. Don't forget to like the stream if you haven't already. Drop a comment if you're watching after the fact. Subscribe if you haven't, and share the channel with somebody who you think would dig this kind of content. He's been Mark of Tales from the Shelf, and I've been and will continue being Davey Deathray. Take care.